Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Financially Incorrect, where we have a cheeky take on serious financial topics. And today we have a really special, interesting guest. He blew up, or his content became really, really relevant during the COVID times, 2020 this is, and his name is Dr. Rain. So Dr. Rain, thanks for first of all coming to the podcast on quite short notice.
Yeah,
Relatively short notice. But thanks for coming on. And so we're gonna find out about Dr. Rain's journey, his I guess understanding of the medical space and all the monies that there are to make or not make in the medical space in Kenya and possibly abroad, depending on I guess where you've worked. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. This was the last thing I would ever expect to be
a part
called
of.
to talk about money and the doctor space. So I guess never say never.
Hopefully it's interesting, right?
Definitely.
And maybe you even uncover things that you never really thought about consciously.
Let's hope we get to that conversation.
Okay, so maybe we can start with a really basic introduction. I'll let you introduce yourself. I know you have your line, which I will let you say yourself, and then you can just tell us a bit about yourself.
So people know me as Dr. Rain. Then my line is aka the hip hop doctor, aka the pediatrician with biceps. So I usually say that it's very intentional. It's because I like to get people to understand who I am and the different elements of me, or the different characters and sides of me, so when I say the hip hop doctor, it's like an ode to myself and also to remind myself that before I became a doctor, the thing that I was really passionate about was hip hop music, rap music, and I'm a struggling rap artist right now.
Okay.
Still trying to make music, but the hip hop now, the doctor side of it, the pediatrician with biceps is a recent ad, because it's taken a very, very long journey to become a pediatrician.
Okay.
With biceps is because I'm now into fitness. Fitness is a lifestyle. I'd like to portray that more and more people should be active in terms of healthy living. So it's one of those double entendres and things that really summarizes everything about me. So I'm a doctor, I'm a pediatrician, I'm an artist, and I'm a fitness enthusiast, as they put it. Activism here and there.
Okay. All right. Maybe we can start with establishing, I guess, why you became so outspoken, and what led to that, I guess, in 2020, when you now, I guess, for all intents and purposes, became sort of a public figure in the digital space.
The crazy thing is that I've really been trying to look back into my, past and also in my childhood to try and figure out where did this thing of speaking out or voicing out things that people are afraid of comes from. And I really dug. I've been digging and I really couldn't find anything. But I think a lot of it has to do with my move growing up away from Kenya.
Okay.
People learning to speak for themselves. But the first ever time that I spoke out and did something radical was when I did my medicine, when I was a medical student, which was in Russia, and there was a lot of skinheads, racism, and incidents that they were really increasing. And we felt that some of the agencies that are responsible for hooking us up and travels and everything, they weren't doing enough. So became a bit of a provocator, talking about rights and things like that, and speaking out. So they've never experienced that in Russia. You can imagine a country where things are strict, Putin, so that's the first time. But to tell you the origin, I really don't know. I think it's just how I was raised. My mother raised me and things like that. But Where it started was when I was a medical student, and it was because guys were being attacked, some people were being killed, and I think that probably that PTSD just broke out, and from then on I was like, okay, I'm going to be speaking out. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you've talked about I guess living out of Kenya, and you've talked about studying in Russia. So before Russia, was there a place that you were before? Did you grow up? I know you told me you were born in Mombasa.
Yeah.
So what's the process there to getting you to Russia?
So yeah, born and raised in Mombasa. I'm hoping to go back. It's just Nairobi has stolen me and things like that because of the education. But yeah, born and raised in Mombasa. I grew up down south of Africa in Botswana, little country called Botswana. Actually, it's a big country. Just has a small population. I think 2 million people. So my entire high school was there, but all my childhood, my teenage life was in Botswana. So different culture, totally different culture. Like I said, they still have a lot of similarities. Unfortunately, I left Kenya and found that corporal punishment there was legal. So when it was illegal in Kenya, now I flew to somewhere else and
it was legal there.
Yeah, so
you guys were getting caned.
So now, for the first time in my life, I got whooped. Yeah, in school. I never had that experience before.
And how old were you at that time?
13, 14. Yeah, and I've always been naughty. I've always been So in high school, I've always been a loud person. Yeah, I'd speak out. I guess it's just that I've always been that kind of person. Yeah, so got whooped. So finished my high school, and then I wanted to do medicine, or what I really wanted to do was marine biology, but I was in Botswana, and the folks didn't plan on moving back to Kenya and things like that. Okay. So, long story short, I wanted to do something science related. Medicine popped up. I think my dad saw an ad about studying in Russia because in Botswana they didn't have a medical university at the time. Okay. And then applying to places like University of Nairobi was also going to be a headache because how do I translate these high school certificates into your points? Here it's like, how many points do you have? And things like that. Whereas, so the certificate is still like a GCE, like O-levels, A-levels, but it was a bit tricky. So if you get an A here, you get a B here, so I was like, okay, fine. Wherever is going to take me. So Russia, we applied, and in 2 weeks they got back to us and they're like, you've been accepted, so just do A, B, C, D. Yeah, and before you know it, I was in Russia.
So so the decision to, I guess, pursue medicine was maybe this is, painting it with a really, really wide brush, was convenient in terms of, you wanted to do something else. This was now sort of science-y. Yeah. And it was like, okay, so this is in the science field.
Yeah, I think I didn't have things figured out. I didn't know, I'm not one of those people who, you hear these stories. Since I was 6 years old, I've always wanted to be a doctor and help people and stuff like that. What I knew is that I wanted to do something that interests me in terms of what I studied in, the education I got. And so what I really liked was sciences.
Yeah. So what interested you about medicine?
So I liked biology. Biology was one of my favorite subjects. Yeah. I liked understanding how the body works, how plants, work, all that stuff about photosynthesis and stuff like that. I was interested, and that's hence the marine biology part of it. But I also liked chemistry. I also liked a bit of physics, science, and that area. But yeah, so I was like, okay, it's either become a doctor. My parents, of course, inception. And you want to become a doctor because you automatically attach that to financial gains. Yeah. One, you're going to satisfy the hell out of your family because we are African culture, and it's like we were told, it's either you become a doctor, lawyer, engineer. The usual. The usual stuff to know that now I have a successful child. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's a plus. But it was the finance. Yeah. It was the moolah, and it was also knowing that you're going to get money, but at the same time you're helping people. Yeah. Yeah.
So money was a big motivator for you getting into medicine.
Definitely, because When is it not? When is money not
Yeah.
a motivator? Especially if you've understood hardships and things like that. Like even the move to Botswana, it wasn't a move that I'm sure my parents wanted. They just looked at the financial scope of the industry that they were in, which was hospitality.
Yeah.
And they realized, okay, if we stay here, we're going to be hit financially. How are we going to pay the kids' school fees? Blah blah blah. So I'm thinking in retrospect what they were thinking.
Yeah.
You know? And then you move now to a different country. So I could also see that sudden change with them, and even financially the struggle. So going through that, of course, money. You're like, okay, so we're not poor or anything, but you'd like to make money so that, you know, mom doesn't have to work so hard.
Yeah.
Dad doesn't have to work so hard.
Yeah.
Chill, basically. Financial freedom.
So when did you first realize in your, I guess, life journey, so to speak, when did you first realize that money is an important commodity in day-to-day life? Could be as early as 4, 5, trading sweets or whatever.
Yeah, funny enough, I was never that guy, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I feel so weird sitting here talking about money, because I've never been the guy who's like this entrepreneur type of spirit. I guess for me, when I was a teenager, I realized money is important. Because when I was a teenager, like growing up, I don't think we lacked anything. But teenagehood, moving to Botswana, I understood that money is important. Certain things, if you don't have money, like especially when I realized my parents couldn't provide for certain things, like maybe I'd want sneakers or something.
Yeah.
And then they'd look at the price, you know, it's like, and the sneaker you want is like $300.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
there's
you're
no
mad.
way we're spending
There's
30,000.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You know, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So those are the things that you realize, okay, so for things you like, you need money.
Yeah.
And then there was a time that I needed braces, and I remember that time my folks didn't have enough money. Because braces back in the
those
days
days braces were
expensive.
Yeah.
So the dentist was like, look, we can chill and wait until he grows up a little bit older, all the teeth are out, then we do the braces then. But that's the explanation I got from my mom. But I realized that, you know, it was because at that particular point she didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So those are the things that for me, I think, you know, make you realize, okay, money is important.
Yeah.
And yeah, so since then I knew the value of money. Yeah.
So then what is it about being a doctor that, or what had you seen about doctors that you were like, yeah, here there's going to be money?
So it's the usual stuff, that the misconceptions that we have. And mainly I blame the West and the media and, you know,
TV
Grey's Anatomy and things like that, showing us all this stuff, So it's also the same things that you're probably, your folks travel and they've seen somebody who is a doctor and the amount of money they make. So if you've not watched Grey's Anatomy and House and all that stuff, but I think what, you know, a doctor is one of those, even African culture wise, is like respectable, and it comes with that prestige. So one thing you know is that you'll never lack. 2 is that you're helping people, and 3, you're getting paid for it, you know. So I just think that those are very appealing things, but again, the reality of how you get there, that journey, and what it takes for you to actually make that money. Because can you make money as a doctor? Yes, you can. There are doctors making a lot of money out here. But at the same time, you need to understand the journey. Yeah.
And and that's what we want to get into. But before we get into that, on your on the aspect of money, because I've just remembered, based on the research that I was given about you, that you won 100,000 shillings in a rap competition down south that you took part in. Did that have any I don't know how old you were at the time.
I was 15.
15.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah. Did that have any implication, or was that money? Did that money just come in and go as quickly as it came?
I can't say it went. Yeah, it probably went quick, but not as quick as it came, because I think Kenya also had the same. Sprite had this campaign, I think, across Africa and boosting hip hop. So they started these rap battles. So I was naturally in down south when I was like 14, 15. I had just started rapping. I used to freestyle a lot. Won the money in the end, but it was like after a whole year. So this competition would start like probably in Feb, and then it would end in December. So like every Friday, there was like, you know,
so it was like a knockout.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was like a league, you know, like how you have like the first setup, you know, and then you advance to this stage and that stage. Yeah, so basically it was that. So it took a while.
Were your parents supportive of that process? Yeah.
So my parents were supportive. I mean, initially they were. My dad was like, okay, this guy is just going to rap.
Yeah.
So
and then
for him, you know, I think the way they looked at it is like, this guy is just interested in this rap stuff.
Yeah.
As long as he's not telling me he's going out drinking, he's smoking and stuff like that, they were like, okay, cool. He can do whatever he wants. So the time they understood, okay, this guy is serious, is when I came, you know, with the check. So, and that time,
a year later.
Yeah. And that final event was held at a club,
of
course. So it was going on till 1 a.m. So my dad was actually in the car, asleep, waiting for me outside that club. And then I come out with like a check, you know, like the usual promo check, branded. And it's a check for like 10,000 pula, which is like 100 G's here. So 15 years old, and I've got this amount of money. They were definitely shocked. For me, the most important thing was I need to get some new and sneakers. I need some drip. I need to, you know, because I'm looking at it like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah,
this
investment in my
money
rap.
is gonna come back. My folks had other stuff, you know. That's when I started realizing about money. Yeah, where they're like, okay, can I borrow 30,000? You know, or like, can I get like 3,000 pula? Yeah, you know, we've got these payments that we're behind on, and this would really help. And I'm like, dude, you're housing me, you're feeding me, and whatever. So you're like, okay, fine. So like almost half of that money,
it's family, went back to family.
I gave it to the folks. Yeah. They said it was a loan, but I understood shortly that money was never coming back. And then the rest of it just went to different stuff, to drip. I recorded some stuff.
Did you save any bit of it?
No, I don't think I saved. I think I invested. Because got stuff for myself. Yeah. The sneakers that my parents wouldn't get
you the $300 sneakers.
Yeah. You know, recorded music so that, you know, I could keep going. So that's basically the investment I made. Okay. And eventually, it led to song being played on radio, equaling to gigs. Yeah. So now, kind of, I was doing pretty well for myself. Ended up hosting the same radio show. Okay. They definitely saw something in me.
Again, this is in Botswana.
Yeah, this is Botswana. So before I left, it was actually a very hard decision, because now I was like any hip hop gig, I was either part of the guys just before the headliner. Yeah. I was making money, and there was the fame as well, because now you're on radio and people know you.
So now when you're talking about, I guess you're an opening act for all of these headliners. Yeah. So like at that time, how much were people being paid for opening acts?
So different stuff. So you'd get like, I think that time it was like $300, $500. It wasn't much, but for me, like as a teenager, like a 16-year-old at that time, that was good money for me. My parents would now, because I'm a minor, would have to sign everything. Yeah.
And at that point, then, is your money going down this? Because I guess you've talked about with this 100,000 shillings, 100,000 equivalent in shillings, about 50,000 is going into family and responsibilities. There's a bit of it that's going into investment, and there's a bit of it that now you're spending. So this money that you keep generating, is it going down these three tiers as a whole, essentially?
So essentially, it would still be, you know, if you're seeing folks not doing very well, struggling, of course. So and that's I think where I got where you make money, but it has to go back into certain things. If you want to perform and you want to look fresh, clothes are gonna cost money. There's always going to be family. So when you grow up and you have a family, you're gonna have to sort out the family. So it definitely did that, but I don't think it was money that I could like save up. Of course, I had some money saved up like for bigger stuff that a liability that I was going to buy. So I think it just taught me a lot as a teenager. But you see, my folks were also in control. So my mom would really say like, you don't have to keep buying sneakers. Put this. So I opened, like, my mom is the one who told me open an account. So I was like a 16-year-old, had an ATM. Okay, now this is normal today, but back in the days, if you're a 16-year-old with an ATM, unless you're a trust fund baby, like that really didn't happen. I had like control of my finances. I could go remove money, but it will always be like, justify why you need this now. Is it going to, and open a savings account as
Do you think that helped? Do you think if she wasn't there, you would have probably blown through it?
Yeah, probably, So my mom, like, in the family is like the financial guru, like type of thing. Like even my dad has never been good. Like, it's one of those things where you make your money and you know that everything is sorted. Even yourself, you're also sorted. There's somebody managing
the money.
He was living good life.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the investment, right? And I guess we had sort of started talking about the process of becoming a doctor and vis-a-vis being able to generate lots of money. So let's talk a bit about your experience and process and the investment that you made in terms of money, in terms of time, to becoming the doctor that you are today. So you get your acceptance letter from the university in Russia. And what happens then?
So, medicine in Russia is 7 years.
Okay.
The first year, actually it's 6 years if you're learning in English. It's 7 years if you're learning in Russian.
Okay.
7 years because the first year you learn the language and you learn the basic foundations of medicine in that language. So you relearn biology, chemistry in Russian and maths in Russian, plus the Russian language. So you do that 1 year, and then now you start 6 years in the Russian language. So that was the steps I was heading towards. Reason because learning medicine in Russian was actually cheaper than being taught medicine in English, because they had to get lecturers who could So it was, I think it was cheaper by like $1,000. So, and I was like, okay, fine. I'm pretty good with languages. I learned Setswana when I was in Botswana in like a year and a half without ever learning it. So I was like, okay, we'll learn the Russian. $1,000 light on your pocket, it's good, you've saved some cash. So I did that during the first year. So in Russian, it was like $4,000
$4,000 a year.
But that's just I think the tuition fees.
So if you're looking at living expenses and
actually that was 4,000 plus. You have a place to stay. You stay in a hostel.
Okay.
So the other money that was needed is now your upkeep. So every month, food, blah blah blah, transport and stuff like that is not included. But it was estimated like around $350 to $400 a month.
Okay. So you're talking about $4,800 a year. Right?
No.
It's $400 by 12 months. So $4,800 a year plus then the 4,000. So you're doing 8,800 a year. Okay.
So then, and of course, as time goes on, inflation and everything. So it started off as 400, but eventually it was like 500. You'd probably need like 600, 700. But at that point, I was already hustling, so I just used to tell my folks, just send me 400, don't worry about it. And I used to make money. It's just
so you get to Russia and you also start hustling essentially.
Well, the hustle became now music, what I knew.
Okay.
So I started performing in Russia.
And are you performing in English or are you performing in Russian?
Just in English. So the rap guys really liked that because now they didn't have to reach out to guys in the US to get us an American sounding rapper on their record, to put it that way.
Yeah.
So and we stepped up the ranks. Next thing you know, again, opening act for guys like Busta Rhymes, MOP, Onyx, Wu-Tang, like, cause especially in the city, which was St. Petersburg in Russia. So you started doing that. You're gigging every weekend, probably make $200 a weekend, $500 on a good one. So you'd make some money. So so I started hustling that way, because medicine wasn't paying because I was still I was still studying and things like that. So I needed a way to earn an extra
and some money.
Be more than a student,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you're there for 7 years.
So that we remember the maths.
Yeah.
It's like 8,800
a year. Yeah.
That's if you're studying in Russian.
Yeah.
It's around 5,500 a year if you're studying in English.
Yeah.
So in the second year, the first year I did it in Russian. In the second year I switched to English.
The Russian wasn't...
Yeah, because I realized when the English guys were discussing medicine or anatomy at that time in English, I could only I had trouble understanding certain things. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not going to practice as a doctor in Russia. I'm going back home.
Yes.
So if I'm going to do this for another 6 years, and then at the end of the year, I'm going to have to start translating everything again.
Yeah, it's problematic.
We need to switch up.
Yeah.
And I must say, Russian is not easy. It's very, very hard, man. It's like studying medicine already is hard. And then now you have this language, because everything is in Russian.
Yeah.
Like all the parts are in Russian. So I was like, okay. Spoke to the folks, and they're like, okay, makes sense. So switch up. So why I like the analogy of the fees in Russia and here is because actually right now in Kenya, it costs around the same per year tuition fees, which is like around 650,000 right now for one to become a medical doctor. And it's 6 years here in Kenya. So it's much more in Russia, because it's that plus, the upkeep.
The upkeep, yeah.
So there you're looking at, close to 1 million shillings at that time. Yeah. 1 million shillings a year.
Is a lot of
so
money.
I could say in my 7 years, probably we're looking at around 7 million, 6 million investment.
Yeah.
Just to become what we call a medical officer here.
Yeah.
Or now a doctor.
Yeah.
Hey, looking back at that, that's a lot. Like, I don't even have 8 million in my account. Anyway, now I'm starting to feel for my folks now.
Okay, so essentially you're saying it's cost between 7 to 8 million in terms of the financial investment, and then there's the time. What's the time like? How difficult was it for you to, I guess, pass the examinations, focus on considering you were doing the music gigs, to be able to earn money as well to assist with your upkeep? How difficult was that process?
It's definitely hard, man. Here here in medicine it's different, because what happens here is that I've realized what happens to the medical students is that people go on strike, and then it delays when they finish. So in your strike, it's your lecturers, the doctors are your lecturers and stuff like that. So you miss out, and then it takes longer for you to finish. Over there, yes, medicine is just tough everywhere else. The only difference I can say is that the medicine I learned there wasn't much bullying that happens here. The doctors here are just ruthless. The lecturers here are ruthless to medical students. But I think it's that you're trying to get perfection. It's a very almost militant way of teaching. Yeah. And if you fail, you have to repeat. So I knew my situation back home, and I was like, if I fail, I have to pay tuition fees again. Yeah. And my mom's is those ones of, you fail, you'll see who's paying you. Yeah. Your fees. That was not an option. Yeah. So it's like failing was not an option, basically. And then I just think I'm a good multitasker. Like I said, good. I know how to hustle my way through things. So I managed to do the music, managed to do the medicine, never failed. Yeah.
And so you come back after the
Yeah.
7 years now,
Yeah.
right? So you get back to Kenya. Now you're on on the pursuit of becoming a well-earning doctor.
Now that's the thing. So
Yes.
now when I was doing my final year,
Yeah.
so sad. That's when I actually started, asking myself, so how much do doctors make back home? Because I
in
didn't
your
know.
last year.
In my last year.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking myself.
So you had a
can imagine.
plan to study medicine, come back to Kenya, but you had never asked yourself.
I never asked myself how much a doctor makes, because I already knew, based on society, based on the Western media,
It has to be money.
and based on the doctors out there and what they drive, and the schools their kids go to,
Yeah.
that you have to make money as a doctor.
Yeah.
So I assumed
There's money.
there's money.
Uh-huh.
So then when I was in my 60s, I started asking, and I was being told it's like $300 at that time. That's what doctors were making. They're making like, I think, 30K to 40K
Start at
as a medical officer. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you start off now. Before, of course, you become a specialist. So I was like, what? Like, I was trying to make that make sense,
yes.
because I was like, I get paid $500 for 45 minutes to perform,
Yeah.
and you're telling me in a month, after 7 years and 7 million, I'm going to be earning 40K a month. I was like, it doesn't make sense. So that time I even went through some stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I need to stay here or I just do this music stuff and
Put the doctor thing on the side.
put the doctor thing aside. But yeah, of course, you later learn that that's how you start, and it's career progression, and when you become a specialist, you earn much more money and things like that. So I was like, okay, let's go back home and then we'll decide. Yeah.
So you come back home. What happens then? Are you're then, if I'm not wrong, you become an intern at Kenyatta National Hospital. So you start getting paid this 30 to 40 G's at that point.
I wish it went that easy.
Yes.
So I come home, and a lot of things had happened in my life. My parents had split up. My mother also became very sick, so she was bedridden. She couldn't work. So it was a point where you're staying with your moms. You've grown up. You left. When you left, it was a home,
a nuclear family.
Yeah. And then you come home, and now you're in Langata, living with your mom and your sister, and your mom doesn't really have source of income and things like that. So it was very, very hard. So that's where my more trauma started, or where I think for the first time in my life I got depressed, because it was moments where both of you are looking at each other, because for her, she's happy. You're a doctor. Now you're coming.
My son's a doctor.
Even though right now I'm not good, at least my son will save the day because he's a doctor. And there was a lot of people looking at you or expecting you to be that way.
Yeah.
You have your degrees, you're a doctor. But you don't start immediately like that. You have to go through a process. If you've studied as a foreign doctor, there's something called pre-internship. And when you finish medical school here, you go straight into internship. So pre-internship is basically to make sure you're ready.
Yeah.
And it's also sitting an exam.
Yeah.
So it can take a process. It also requires payments and things like that. So you have to pay quite a bit of money. Right now, when I was back in the days, it was, I think, 30,000. And at that time, my mom, even that 30K was a problem to come up with. And right now, I think it's 100 and something thousand.
For that pre-internship.
Because the assumption is if somebody trained you outside, you come from a family that has money.
Yeah.
You didn't train. I mean, you don't have the same tax bracket, if you can put it that way. So that was extremely hard, like seeing your mom, who was like the financial guru, never had a problem with anything, and could figure it out. She's bedridden, she can't work, she can't earn a living, she can't pay any further. When you speak to your dad, he's also like, yo, dude, we've educated you. Right now I don't have a job, and you're just gonna have to figure things out now.
Yeah.
You're a grown up.
Yeah.
Figure that stuff out on
Yeah.
your own. So there was that. It took some time for me to do pre-internship and finish pre-internship. It actually took almost a year for me to go through that process because, again, when I came back, there were some strikes. We were quite a large number. They had to do it in batches and things like that. So after that...
And so if you don't mind asking, what's happening in this year? How are you keeping up with whatever bills you need to meet? And
Exactly. That's why I was depressed. So yeah, like I said, Mums really doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
I'd have to go to Kenyatta because it's you pay and you do it for free. And when you get there, man, you're being worked like an intern. So you're doing all the stuff that an intern does. Yeah. So I think mostly my sister had a little bit. She had like just a side hustle for like a DJ and like an audio company thing, and so she used to help out here and there. But for around like 6 months, I was good because I had saved quite a bit
from the
so
DJ from the performances.
Coming back from so I saved a little bit. Took me because I came back in like September, so that got me all the way up to November, December, because pretty much I was helping out with almost everything, transport and things like that. I remember paying rent. And then an opportunity came in December to go tour in Russia. And I was like, guys, I'm not doing shit right now. I'm not making any money. So I'm going. So did that. It was 3 weeks just to go on tour. And I'd make like $3,000.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is good money.
Yeah.
So that's what I made. Came back with it.
That keeps you going.
Yeah, kept us going. Helped out with a couple of things. Bought a few of things for my mom. Some bills. Yeah, got that sorted out. But of course, by the time a year was ending, that was also like dwindling out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was crazy.
Tough. Sounds
yeah,
tough.
It was tough.
Yeah.
The pre-internship part wasn't tough. The internship part was tough.
Okay. In terms of the medical element, or
financially. Also what I went, so that time we were sorting out a lot of things, bills and stuff like that. My mom flew to South Africa for treatment. So that's where she was getting treated, and then she was in Botswana for a while. So when she was there, and then I enrolled in internship.
Yes.
So my mom passed on when I just started internship 3 weeks into your internship. So, and it was like that moment of, because internship is paid. And the moment...
And this is the 30 to 40K that they're now paying.
Yes.
Okay.
But when I said that there was the delay with the strikes and stuff like that, that strike actually helped because now doctors stopped being paid. That 30-40K became now basic salary. But then now there was allowances. So it kind of built up, and now, okay, the doctor could, bring in like 90, 100K a month, which was really, really relief, because that was like 2012, 2013. So still things were pretty expensive at that time. So, and I started my internship. I just lost my mother. The other thing was, so I was dealing with that stress. And then because I'd just gotten in, the thing with medicine, you're so focused, you're like, okay, this is your chance. You're in. Because getting in is
hard
a problem.
Enough. Yeah.
Like right now, we have so many guys who have finished, been educated, parents have paid $5 million, and for the past 6-8 months, guys are just sitting, waiting, And again, the question, what is this person doing 6 to 8 months doing without pay? Your parents have like really sacrificed everything. They're like, even them, they think this one is going to be a doctor, and then once
be good.
It's okay, he's going to take care of us. So it's all those questions. And then there's this thing with government. When you're an intern, they delay your salary. And I would say that it's deliberate because it's something that has been happening year after year and there's no solution. So an intern can take like 5 months before you're actually paid.
So you're getting so now you're being paid this between 90 to 100K.
Yes.
But
it's not checking.
It's not checking on a monthly
and I was
basis.
lucky because I got posted to Kenyatta, which was Nairobi, where we live.
Yeah.
So there were interns being posted, like you can go to Isiolo, to Lamu, to wherever, and you're supposed to get there. How do you get there? Where are you going to find the money to go get transport to move yourself to this different place? Excuse me. Where are you going to stay? Because most of the, ideally there's usually like quarters and stuff like that. But if you know how government works, if you've been to public universities, all these things usually are reserved for certain people. You have to know somebody to get a house and stuff. And even the house is not free, you still have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all that stuff, like it's relocating, like pots, pans, mattress. It's starting your life, as a doctor. So it's really, really crazy. And that's why we unfortunately are losing doctors to suicide, because these are the financial strains that people have to go through, or the realities people have to go through. And I don't feel like they talk enough about it. Like when it's career time, when people have, like how the highest scoring person, like I get goosebumps every time I hear somebody say, I want to become a neurosurgeon, I want to become an orthopedic surgeon. And I get that some of these students come from a really, really
privileged or well off.
Not well off, but now poverty struck.
Right.
They really like becoming a doctor is a big thing in wherever they're from, but at the same time, I'm like, I get it, but do you really get what it takes? I'm not saying that you shouldn't become one. You shouldn't become, because it's really sad that if anything, you want someone to become a neurosurgeon, you want someone to become an orthopedic, a pediatrician, because we don't have those people. But the reality of how healthcare has taken a shift in terms of health capitalism, and the reality is that the doctor right now in this country, really, it's not a smart. I mean, you guys are the finance guys, yeah. Like when you look at the return on investment, in terms of not only monetary, in terms of how much you're investing money-wise to get that piece of paper or that education, and then when you look at also the return of investment in terms of time, the time that you put towards it, which equals to money, is so high. And when you look at the return on investment, it's not, because a way that we have been really kept into a box, what we've really been sold, it's like the best thing in marketing, in medicine is following the Hippocratic Oath, and believing that healthcare in this day and age is all about helping people, and that it's your fundamental right that you deserve healthcare.
Yes, as a Kenyan citizen.
When we still have the same system of healthcare capitalism that will say that this drug will lead you to be able to develop and walk properly, you won't be paralyzed and you won't die, and it costs $1.2 million. And if you don't have it, then your child, unfortunately,
cannot get the drug.
Will get paralyzed, and they'll eventually die.
Yeah.
So we can't be talking about the same Hippocratic Oath when we have this system.
Yeah.
So the conversations that need to be had is that healthcare is capitalism. Yes, it's also an ethical field where we're actually, treating people and things like that. And that's where a lot of doctors have a God complex. But at the same time, it's somebody's career. It's a job just like anybody else.
So do you not think that it was it's been a good return on investment on the money that was put in into your education, into your process of becoming a doctor?
I would say, if my parents right now, did the math and asked me, hey, can you...
How many years have you been a doctor now?
So, let's say I graduated 2011.
Okay.
But I came back 2012.
Okay.
Been an intern from 2013. So it's 11 years now.
11 years now.
Or so. Because 2012, it's around 11 years.
Yeah.
So that's the journey it's taken for me to be a medical. That's the journey from being a medical officer.
Yeah.
That's subtracting the 7 years
that you were in school.
I was in med school. So you have your 7 years, and now practicing as a doctor, it's 11 years.
Yeah.
And that's taken. Now I'm a specialist, so I'm a pediatrician. So you're looking 11 plus 7, 18 years.
18 years, yeah.
In those 18 years, if you ask me to produce something, you write me a check and say, okay, this is your bill, like they do in the States.
Yeah.
So in the States, you get a lot of doctors have debts, student loans, because it's part of your investment. So that's what happens in the States, and the government basically, or whoever, writes you a check and says, okay, whatever check you're getting, we're subtracting because you owe us
X amount
of money. So right now I'd be in debt. Let's just put it that way. You'd
still be in debt.
Even if my dad right now tells me, write me a check for that 5 million of your undergraduate,
just the tuition,
I still can't write it.
Yeah.
I'd have to probably take a loan and then add more debt, and probably after paying that loan with the interest, it still wouldn't be the entire sum.
So medical officer, you're now making 90 to 100. What's then your journey or your process right now? First of all, what are you doing with that money? What are you doing with your salary at the time?
So another unfortunate thing that happens in the medical space, like I told you, that 5 months delay.
Yeah.
So usually what happens is that it gets paid in arrears, in lump sum.
Okay.
So your 5 months, you're dry, you don't have anything.
So how do you survive in those 5 months?
A lot of debt. So borrowing, friends, family. Shout out to friends and family. They really come through. But a lot of it is debt.
Yeah.
So it's either you tell the landlord. Most of the times they understand. You might find where these people do internship or where you rent a place, they've had a doctor before. So the landlord, maybe you have an arrangement, but it's not always the case. Because they might tell you 3 months, and then in
Max,
3 months, and then now you're 5 months. So it comes boom, and
after
you have
5 months.
After 5 months, let's say it's 5 months, so that's like 500K.
Yeah,
it's $500,000. You've never seen that money in your life.
Yeah.
So what happens is a lot of people just don't know how to use their money. The clever ones will pay their debt, sort things out. Most people, you'd probably see the latest iPhone 14, the newest Samsung Tab or whatever. Because after all, people say, you're a doctor. You're now a doctor. So there's this perception that
you need to look like a doctor.
You need to look like a doctor. So a lot of people spending on that. But a lot of it just goes back into debt.
So for you, where were you on that scale? Somewhere in the middle?
I was around there. I had a few loans here and there that I had to pay back. I remember one of them was a loan for a music video that I shot, because I was like, okay, I need to get back into music. This daktari thing is not making sense.
Yeah.
So I was paying back some of that. Rent, couple of rent in arrears. I moved to a better apartment.
Yeah.
Just.
Do you have any investment thinking at the time? And are you also at the time? Are you also thinking, okay, so it's gonna be another 5 months before I see money again, so I need to plan for that?
Yeah, I think there was that you don't know when the next check is gonna come in. So there was definitely saving aspect of it. One thing that I know people have advocated for in our space is doctors. The Kenya Medical Association has a circle. So one of the ways I was saving was
in the circle.
Was through the circle. But it's also, I could also argue about that, but I think now where they've come, they really have quite a wide variety of how you could borrow and things and things like that. But at that time, I was like putting the money to the circle, pretty much hand to mouth, honestly speaking, when I was in internship.
So when do things change financially, or do things change financially? Maybe I'm making an assumption.
Wow, to really be honest, right now for me, in terms of revenue and streaming in income, I think it's pretty much like any other Kenyan where you have a job, the job is sorting out some bills, but for you to get where you need to be, like if I want to save, I want to invest, I want to get some assets, then you have your main job and you have something else that's bringing in revenue. So medicine is not, I can't say like medicine is financing everything. Of course, it's a job just like anything else. So I shouldn't, people shouldn't think that, okay, so now you're a doctor, now you're getting the guap and it's enough. And I'm sure there are also people who are doing well, making money in medicine, who also have, you want to try and get as much passive income or income streaming from somewhere. But still not there yet.
It's still not there.
I
so what are the?
Don't feel like
but
I'm
I mean,
there
what are
yet.
the increments? Because if you're saying now you're 11 years in the space, I'm assuming you've gone up the ranks, and I've read about the structures of payments as you keep progressing through the medical field, and I think I read an article which said, I think senior doctors maybe make 192,000 if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's legitimate or not.
So it goes up. It goes up. One of the things that we've really been struggling with, and is most of the doctors belong now to the labor union and certain laws. So it really depends on your employer. So if your employer is the public service and the doctors are unionized and under the union, it's all dependent on the collective bargaining agreement that the union has with your employer in terms of your working condition and terms.
Okay.
Now in the private sector, it's something different because not all doctors are unionized. So again, it depends on what terms of contracts are these private hospitals giving you in terms of how much salary you're going to be making and things like that, how much that salary will be increasing as you progress. Is there career growth? Is there like an actual structure?
Okay, so if we were to try and I guess for me, who's like a total outsider, give me some structure on what what are the potential earning spaces for a doctor, and how much is someone making, how many different hospitals can someone work at, so cumulatively, like how much is someone can make,
so when you're done with internship, you now become a medical officer. So now you have a practicing license, so you can be able to practice, so be it in public service or in the private sector. Now on average, like that was in 2013, 2014, when I was being paid as a medical officer, after all the deduction, the pay as you earns and whatever, I was getting around 99,000.
Okay.
That was in 2013, 14.
Yeah.
Right now, there are doctors, medical officers who are earning either the same amount or even less. There are some who are earning 90,000. And that's where there's a big gap in terms of harmonization of what a doctor is supposed to be getting. Because ideally, a medical officer should be earning much more. If we look at the collective bargaining agreement that was agreed by the doctors' union, doctors should be, a medical officer should be earning close to 300,000. So around 250 to 300,000. And it goes higher as you progress. And then a specialist was earning, around, a specialist should have been earning around 500, 400, 500. At that time, with that collective bargaining agreement, which was, the CBA was signed by the Ministry of Health, so that means basically all public servants. But essentially, it should also translate to the private sector. So when there was the long 100-day strike, a lot of the private sectors started worrying because government was now going to start paying people around almost 300,000, so 250, 300 net, and they were paying their doctors around 120 net, 150 net. So they knew everybody's going to rush and apply to the public sector. But so we have, that's the issue we have. So we don't really have a uniform thing. And right now the young doctors are really having it hard because it's situations where you're earning 150,000 a month. You went to the same school, and the other guy who is somewhere else in another hospital is earning 80,000 based on the contract that they're having. So because there's so much competition, right now there's like 4,000 unemployed doctors. So there's a lot of competition. And because you have so many unemployed people, it also gives, this is where healthcare capitalism, you give them leverage now, because health was devolved from the ministry, and now every county has the right to hire. So you see, it depends also on that county. What is this county offering? Who is your employer? What's, the terms and things like that. They try to have it a bit uniformed because they have the council of governors who sit down and say, we're going to pay our doctors this amount of money. But at the end of the day, it's either this person gets this and that. At the same time, right now, like the situation is, if you don't like your terms, or if you're not happy, and why are you asking us for more money, we'll just fire you and hire some of those 4,000 doctors who need this job.
Yeah.
So it's really a supply demand also type of situation. Yeah.
So,
but to answer your question, even if with the CBA you're earning 300, let's say 250,000, 500,000, that would be ideal. That would be the ideal situation. And it looks like a lot of money, but it would be ideal in the sense that it will improve our health systems.
Mm-hmm.
It will actually realize the fact of universal health coverage, because public health health facilities are still the most affordable health facilities. They're still also the best. That's where you have most of the specialists and the most trained people. But because you don't pay them enough money, because you pay them peanuts, that's why you find doctors open up. They have to open up their own private clinics, or do things outside of where they're actually employed. And it boils down to the fact that it's because this person has invested this amount of money and you're not giving it, so he has to consult elsewhere.
So if you're in the public hospitals or the private hospitals for that matter, are you then saying that for you, if you were to achieve your dreams, you need to either have a side hustle or you need to then set up your private practice to be able to meet all the needs that you essentially require?
For me now, being a family man, for me to provide for my son, take care of the family, definitely need. I'm employed in a private hospital. But that's why I do social media. So I still have my other hustles. And if I don't have other hustles and just rely on my salary, that's when things will be rough. It will be basically hand to mouth, and it will be very, very, very frustrating. And I see a lot of doctors living like that. But the only difference is you earn a certain salary in a hospital, and in your free time, you go work in another hospital so that you can earn.
So when you combine it,
and then you combine it, so that's how most doctors live. But for you to get that money, you have to be present.
What about then the private practice, like setting up your own clinic? Is that something you've done? Is that?
Yes. So that's definitely something, and I hope people do that. The end goal, so that you can be your own person and practice the medicine you want. But a lot of people just do it for employment purposes. And to further study means more money getting into it. And the employment is for specialists. For somebody like me who has done 16 years of training, medicals, whatever. A specialist right now is usually offered a gross salary of between 300 to 400,000 Kenya shillings. This is your CV. Your CV now is 16 years. But that's how much you're paying. So and now we have a financial bill coming up, so it's going to be even less. So after that, you're taking home probably like 250, barely touching 300.
After 16 years of
16 years. I mean, like, even if I was to ask you, if you invested 16 years of your life and somebody was giving you 250 a month, now in this time,
with a family, that can be tough. So for private practice and the rates that doctors charge, I don't know if that's a place that you've ventured into yet, but how do doctors, or if you have, how have you come up with your rates? And if not, how do doctors decide that they're going to charge about 5,000, 3,000, or whatever the cost is?
So, like I said, doctors, we have very, very good systems in place. just like Kenya has good systems in place, our issue is implementation. So we are all licensed. For you to practice, you have to be licensed to the medical council. The medical council has code of conduct of the doctors, and also has what we call, it used to be called the medical board, now it's council rates. So you used to have the medical board rates. It would tell you how much a medical officer, they take into account all that, the years of training, the current GDP, and they give you a figure. So there's usually a rate for a medical officer, how much during the day, and also how much at night. Now at night, it's important to note that at night it's usually significantly higher. And then you have rates for specialists as well. The last document that was put out, that was in 2013, 2014. And then it also has inflation. So it will tell you like I think it was 0.4, 0 point something inflation rate per year.
Yeah.
Now, to surprise you, the board rates right now, if we take into consideration inflation and everything right now, all the consultation fees that you are paying right now to see your doctor is probably 30% or 40% less
than what it ought to be.
Than what it's supposed to be. Sometimes it can even be up to 50%, especially when it comes to the night things. Because nowadays when you get to work, it's per hour.
So like I was at Nairobi Hospital maybe 4 weeks ago. I had a thing in my eye and I was being seen. I think the consultation was 2,000, I think 120. So you're saying that ought to be 4,000.
Yeah, probably around 4,000,
5,000.
Yeah, just to see a
just
doctor.
to see the doctor.
Yeah, that's where we are, and that's why I'm saying why it's so important for doctors to be paid what they're supposed to be paid and absorbed in the public health system, is so that you don't have to go to a private hospital and pay 4,000 consultation. If you have a proper NHIF card, or if the government understands what universal health coverage is that you just go there, you pay your 50 shillings or your 100 shillings and you're sorted. From seeing the doctor to the drugs to everything.
So that's incredible for starters. I'm just like, we should be paying double for consultation.
It's crazy. You see, we are always the victims because doctors are like, this guy's 4,000, and you see, to you, it's like this doctor has just taken 4,000 in his pocket, but that doctor is there. He's an employee.
Yeah,
you know, it's the same.
But what about for the private practice then? I mean, then if I'm charging 5,000, 4,000 or whatever it is private practice then in that sense closer to whatever the rates are at the...
So private practice
and
would be around
for private
5,
practice, are you still
6,000.
but you're still governed by the
council.
The council and the rates.
The medical council sets the rates, but ideally right now, if you're seeing a consultant, you should be paying around 5,000-6,000 if we look at inflation. Some do charge that, but you'd find that most of them are not covered by insurance, because that's another thing. We have insurance that would say, look, we're only paying up to 3,000 or 4,000, but you want your 6,000 or 7,000. Maybe this time I'm 55 years old and I've got like now 30-40 years experience, so it's justifiable why you're charging that much of consultation.
Okay, I guess as we sort of wind up, maybe a bit of a businessy question. So what then, in your experience, would be a successful business model for a doctor if you were to make your money as a doctor? What would be your route to success? You know, so you have, let's take your story and say you have your 8 to 10 million that's been invested in your education and in your process. So what then do you need to do? Because you have to go through the 6-7 years of school, you have to go through the internship, but then from there then, what would then be a successful business model?
So one, it would be, first of all, unlearn, in the sense that do no harm, only do good. That's the Hippocratic Oath. That's what we're supposed to do. So you should be, number one, driven by passion, because clearly, as we've talked about the money and stuff like that, you can see that doctors actually they like what they do, because clearly if you don't like what you do,
you wouldn't.
you wouldn't be doing this stuff. But we need to move away of thinking of it as employment and look at it as employing yourselves. So for me, group practice is I think the way forward for a lot of guys, because number one is that there's no jobs for a medical officer to start with. So you want to get into something like group practice and setting up your own practice and setting up your own terms, because the employees with all these different rates and different things and situations, you'd rather be the one to now create. So it's entrepreneurship that you have to get into. Setting up your own practice is another thing, but that means you need to invest more into education. But anyone who has done a master's in medicine should really not be looking at employment. It's fine for the beginning, but we shouldn't be thinking about employment, because no employer,
Will pay you your worth.
hospital will pay you your worth. They will charge the patient 5,000 and they will give you your 150k, 200k salary, and you would see maybe 20 patients in a day, and they're paying 5,000. You've made 100 Gs. You've made almost half your salary. The hospital has made half a salary in a day, and they're still paying you, your 200k. So you start to question things. So become that business model. Also, because healthcare is something that is so needed right now, people need to have options. Not everybody wants to go to a public health facility and wait for a long amount of time. Not everybody can afford the luxurious private hospitals. So you have to find your niche, find what is more appealing to you, set it up. For me, public, what do you call it? Group practice.
Yeah.
And setting up my own place.
Yeah.
That's the end goal.
Yeah.
So that I can give opportunities to other younger doctors now to see their own patients. Create that whole thing where they're creating their own income, building their own clientele and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's the advice I'd give.
Okay. The final question, I've asked this to, I guess, all the other guests that we've had. Do you think that it was worth it? Do you think it was, like, if you could go back, would you make the same decision again and study medicine, or do you look at other people from other industries and, I guess, with a little bit of envy possibly, to be like, the different decision, things could have been different for me?
Yeah, I think as a financial investment or a financial decision, I definitely wouldn't make that decision again. But because it's on a personal level, I wouldn't change a thing, because it's molded me to the person I am today. Whether I did medicine or something else, I think just the hardships and going through that has made me more resilient as a person, has helped me deal with depression differently than it would somebody else. So I wouldn't change a thing, but I wish I didn't know in my 6th year how much a doctor makes in my country. I wish I already planned like other people beforehand, who were like, there's no money as a doctor there's a boy of mine from Cameroon, so he knew as he was studying for his US exams. So he, as soon as he got his degree, flew to the US, sat for the exams, passed, and that's it. Because he knew back home in Cameroon, there's no way he was going to return his investment or make enough money. Yeah. So I wish I knew that. That's the only thing.
Okay. Well, that was enlightening. That was different. One of the producers on the show was saying with every episode he seems to be getting more depressed about the economy and the state of the country and the options that are available.
You'll get depressed if you look at it as education point of view. Yeah, like it's ROI. And my nieces, my nephews, they're really like this generation where they tell you like, look, I don't see the point in going to school or learning the way you learn. And sometimes I don't have a comeback, because really you ask yourself, was like, okay, is it really the solution? Because education really is not making the bank that you really want.
Yeah. Anyway, that was great. I mean, I learned a lot. I hope I guess we'll pick up a thing or two. And this was Dr. Ray. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And this was Financially Incorrect. And today we got to learn a bit more about the medical space. We'll see you on the next episode.